This is Tyrese Haliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. And Facci, football season is among us. Thursday night, opening night for the NFL. We already started college football this weekend. I got to ask you, though,
What do you got?
fantasy football drafts, how have they been for you this year?
I'm down to one league. A couple of years, I was doing three leagues. I think one year I was even doing four. It's way
Wow.
too much for me. First time in about 20 years, I'm down to one league. I'm looking to enjoy this football season, not have my players going up against each other in different leagues. I don't want to be conflicted. I don't want to go 1-1 every weekend in fantasy where I can't be too high, can't be too low. But I got a pretty good team. I'm in a 12 team league. I got the third overall pick. I went Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's gonna have a really big year. I like the option. I passed on Saquon Barkley for Gibbs just because I think Barkley can only go downhill from the unbelievable year that he had last year. What
What
about you?
what pick did you say you had?
Third.
Third.
So
That's a good spot. I
yeah,
like I like Gibbs a lot.
yeah, I like Gibbs. Had him last year. It was good. I think that he's only going to get better. But yeah, I was really torn on Barkley, but I just felt he's faced injuries for a long time in his career. Last year he was healthy, rushed for over 2,000 yards, and a lot of people don't know this, at least in my league. Gibbs actually outscored Saquon Barkley last year with 600 less rushing yards. So
Hmm.
you know what? I'm betting on the upside of Gibbs.
No, I was not in a position to draft Gibbs this year. If I would have been, I would have taken him. But in both of my drafts, Facci, I had a 12-team league and I had the 11th pick, and I'm in a 10-team league or setting the pace league, and I had the first pick. And it was all randomized for the setting the pace league, and I log on and I see I have the first pick, double quarterback league. I said, I can't go position player here. I got to go quarterback because if you wait too
You know,
long, then you don't get any
totally.
quarterbacks. So I took Josh Allen first. I felt pretty good about that. My next two picks were Malik Neighbors and Chase Brown. I felt great about really solid quarterback one. Maybe you say Chase Brown's a running back too, but I loved him last year. And
He
whenever
was great.
Zach Moss went out, he just took over the backfield. And I think Cincinnati is a great offense to get if you can get any other players because I had him and T. Higgins last year and won the league. So I was like, I got to get him back. I think Malik Neighbors is kind of an upside pick. Obviously, the Giants are just like I hate drafting players off of bad offenses usually.
True story. I've never owned a Jet in my life. I
Yeah.
won't do it. There's something about the Jets just creeps me out. I can't have one of those players on the team. But in terms of neighbors, PPR master, monster
Yeah.
last year. He killed it. Better quarterback situation this year around. I think it's a really good pick.
I mean, this is a guy that's like ranked eighth overall in ESPN's overall rankings, and he fell to 21. So
Great.
had to get him, but I'm not going to go through my whole team, but I feel pretty confident that I can repeat my championship that I won last year for the Set in the Pace Fantasy Football League. It was pretty funny. I won on Monday Night Football when the Week 17 ended. I ended up outlasting a player that I was going up against. We had two players on Monday Night Football, and the funny thing was, is as soon as I won, I didn't say anything. I get an email from the loser. I'll take my money on Cash App, please.
Oh, hey, he was ready to say, you know
He was
what?
upset, man. He
Ready
was
to end this season. I
upset.
don't blame him. So you're telling me you won the league and ended up with the first overall pick and
Hey,
what? Your commissioner?
I am. That's great.
Something's getting a little fishy over here. But no. I guess
You know what? I usually do new players every single season too. So that way, because I usually get a lot of emails where people say, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play. So I had like four different people that backed out or like didn't respond to the email or didn't pay me. And I was like, all right, I'm going to find somebody else, like it's only $30 to play. It's not like I'm charging like 100 or 200
yeah,
bucks.
no, it's good
So
value.
yeah. But anyway, we're here today, Facci, for a fun podcast conversation. We're going to talk about our guy, Andrew Nembhard, starting point guard for your Indiana Pacers this year. But before we get into that, did you see the video the Pacers released just about 2 hours before recording this? Tyrese Haliburton shooting free throws
Ooh, I like that. I
with
like
no
that.
boot on.
That's crazy. I mean, it feels like it's been a lifetime, but in reality, it really hasn't. I mean, we're recording this on September 1st, so we're talking about 2.5 months,
Yeah.
maybe. So I love where he's at. I just love the fact that like we don't have to start counting the months going, wait a minute, but what if we go on a deep run? I just love the fact that it's like he's not coming back. Let him heal. It sounds like he's right on time, maybe ahead of pace. Maybe he's setting the pace. I don't know. I don't know. Had to do it. But I just feel like anytime he posts some update, it just feels like, oh my God, yes, he's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, it's good to see him on the court. I'm not getting my hopes up for anything, but I just said point God back in the lab, which is great
Long
to
time ago.
see. So good to see Tyrese back. Now, getting to this year's season, Andrew Nembhard will be our starting point guard. And I thought it'd be really fun to go through and look at every single starter in the Eastern Conference and then determine where we would have Andrew Nembhard ranked amongst the other starting point guards in the Eastern Conference. So it's not the entire NBA, it's just the 15 teams in the East. And I got my starters based off of what ESPN's depth chart was. And then there was another website, I forget where I got that information from, but they had the depth charts of each team as well. So you might disagree with who we have for that said team, but I felt like we did a pretty good job of balancing it out with who the actual point guard is. Now, I will say this, I was curious myself to see where these players ranked in terms of NBA 2K26's rankings, and I was curious where Tyrese Haliburton was ranked. He is tied for the top spot at 93 overall with Jalen Brunson, ahead of Cade Cunningham. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely love it. And look, I haven't played 2K in a bit, but I just feel like Tyrese belongs over there. When he's coming off of the NBA Finals run, and he was incredibly clutch, I think you look at this and you say, hey, Cade, incredibly talented player. His time's coming. Maybe it's right now. Brunson, very good player. Hasn't had that type of playoff run. Like Tyrese's stock is like sky high right now. Obviously, there's injury, but if there wasn't the injury, you'd be saying like, okay, this guy is taking over the league. So I love the fact that he's tied because I feel like Tyrese isn't in that like undisputed best point guard in the East, but like he is in everybody's top two. I like to believe that he has to be no less than top two for anyone who's doing these type of rankings.
Yeah, I would say Brunson's a better individual scorer. Halliburton's a much
Yes,
better
yes, absolutely.
individual passer and gets his guys more
Playmaker. Yep.
involved. I don't
Mhm.
think Brunson's a bad passer. I think that if you were picking a guy to lead your franchise, I think you'd have to go with the one that beat Brunson twice in the playoffs.
I would. I would. I
I would
feel
say
like
Tyrese
Brunson.
is the best point guard in the Eastern Conference.
I totally would. I totally would. There's so many different things that you could dissect. Like, yes, Brunson is a better scorer, but okay, there's other times that like Tyrese is going to get everybody involved. Cade Cunningham, fantastic scorer, turns the ball over too much. Like, still, it's one really good season. So I think Tyrese is now building a sample size that shows that like it's not a fluke. He's not overrated. He is this good.
He's the point guard, but I will say, coming back from the Achilles injury, I am a little bit, hesitant to say he's better than those guys once he comes back because he'll need some time to get back to himself. But if he doesn't ever get back to himself, then maybe he isn't the top point guard in the East. But based on what we saw last year and what we've seen the last couple of years, I don't know. I feel good about Halliburton, even though the scoring can be up and down sometimes. I just think that he deserves that spot. And I think he's a much better team defender than Jalen Brunson as well. I mean, we really saw that this past season. I think in the postseason, not great on ball, but great off the ball. But now let's transition to the guy we're actually talking about today, Andrew Nembhard, where he ranks amongst starting point guards in the Eastern Conference. So let's just work our way up from 15 to 1. Facci, who do you have as the worst point guard in the Eastern Conference?
I don't even know how many people even know who this is, but he's on the Brooklyn Nets. That's Tyson Etienne.
Yeah.
All right, this is someone that like first coming in, I was like, oh, is this a rookie? Nope, he played 7 games last year, but he's listed as the Brooklyn Nets starting point guard. He's a 70 as it relates to 2K. You sent me that, so I don't know. You can't really go that much lower and be a starting point guard. But this is someone that when I kind of broke it down, he played 7 games. All you really need to know is that he shot below 33% from the field in those games. So the Brooklyn Nets, it's gonna be an interesting season, and I just think that Tyson Etienne might be a name that you might forget not too long from now.
Yeah. I don't like Tyson Etienne at all. He was my number 15 as well, just because if you look at the rest of the guys in the Eastern Conference, like you at least have heard of them. So he's just one of those guys where this is a roster that is basically the equivalent to um, trust the process. So
Pretty
we're
much.
not we're not even excited. And like I know people might say, well, what about Cam Thomas? Well, technically he plays shooting guard for the Nets, and so we'll get to that later this week as we rank the rest of the Pacers amongst the Eastern Conference. But today we're just talking about Tyson Etienne, and he is ranked 70 overall, like you said, on NBA 2K, and I have him at 15 as well. So let's keep it moving here, Facci. Number 14, who do you have?
I got KPJ.
Same.
Kevin Porter Jr. Loved him coming out of college, despite there already being issues. Those issues seem to have kind of followed him around the league, even kicked him out of the league for a little bit. He's back in the league. And I think that now you kind of look at this and maybe he's found like a little bit of a home in Milwaukee, but far from the traditional point guard. I think he's someone that could score 10 to 15 points per game, but is never really going to be that type of playmaker that you look for in a point guard.
Yeah, and I will even say this when I've been listening to some Bucks podcasts, they're talking about Ryan Rollins potentially starting over him at the point guard spot. Like, and Ryan Rollins did start in the playoffs when Dame was out. So I don't even know if Kevin Porter Jr. will actually end up getting the starting point guard spot, but I he to me is just like a fine player, nothing
Yeah.
exciting about him. He is ranked a 76 overall in the 2K ratings, and I would agree. I have him at 14 as well, Facci. So now we're getting into my next tier of players. That was my bottom tier, my bottom two in the East, and I have a tier now where I have three players listed. I'm curious who you have at 13.
This is where things could get a little bit different because I think with this list, it's important to not just say like what you did, it's what you also are going to do. So it's a little bit of the body of work that you've had slash where you're going. So this is where things probably get a little bit interesting. I have Davion Mitchell over here.
Same
So
here.
we know what he brings defensively. I think it's really good. I think that he finally got to like take that big step forward. Flash some potential with Toronto. Might have found a home in Miami, but I have a feeling that he might just kind of be locked in to like being a specific role player in Miami. Just someone out there, play hard, battle defensively, not sure what they're going to have for him offensively. I think that might kind of stunt some of his overall top 10 drafted type of potential. And that's why I have him at bottom three.
Yeah, I had him at 13 as well. And it's part of the reason why is like I just don't know how much better he'll get. I mean, I think he's shown flashes there, but he had a really good, I think it was a playing game. I don't know if they made the playoffs last year. I can't remember.
Playing.
They made the play and they lost.
Yeah, I believe that's what it was.
Who was the 8 seed last year? Did they lose to Miami? Did they lose to the Cavs in
No,
round one?
Miami was the eighth seed and they got historically
Yeah.
whooped. I think it was like the largest point differential like in any playoff series before.
That's what I thought. I thought they made it last year, but I can't remember. But there was
They made it, but it would have been better if they didn't.
yeah, I think he had one game though, like the playing game, where he was actually pretty good and showed flashes of what he could be. But I don't love the ceiling there. He kind of got traded around already as like a rookie with Sacramento. So
Yep.
I'm excited for the Miami Heat guard rotation to play out because I feel like it's all over the place. Like Terry Rozier's in the mix, Mitchell's in the mix, Hero's in the mix, Norman Powell's in the mix. So like, will he even close games or it will be like a Hero Powell type thing? I don't know. I can see Hero Powell together with Andrew Wiggins, with Bam, with Khalil. Like I could see a lot of different variations where Davion might not be on the floor, but he might be their best defender at that spot. So that's where I had him at, and I don't know if I said his 2K ranking. I don't know if you did or not, but he has a 77 on NBA 2K. So far we have gone, chalk based on the 2K rankings, and I'm going to continue going chalk here at number 12. I have Bub Carrington from the Washington Wizards.
That is who I have as well. It's a little bit hard to predict because he was a rookie last year. Showed some potential, but on a really bad team. If you really want to say where was the good in Bub Carrington, it was he finished the final month of the season kind of playing really well, averaged about 18 points per game, about 7 assists, 5 boards. You imagine that the ball should be in his hand a lot. He's a big part of like the new culture, building blocks, however you want to put it, for the Washington Wizards, but it's hard to really rank him any higher than anyone else on this list because it's only been 1 year.
Yeah, and I feel like when we're talking about projecting, like a lot of people that I listen to that I trust their basketball knowledge, they love Bub Carrington and think he's got a bright future. I just felt like I couldn't put him any higher than this based on the resume of the 11 players above him, but I do like what he could potentially be as a point guard for the Washington Wizards. So, Facci, we're going to move now into our next tier of players, I guess. Well, I actually have one more player in this tier, surprisingly. I've got somebody in the Mitchell Carrington tier at number 11, and I'll just reveal this real quick because you might have this player higher.
Right.
So I have Emmanuel Quickly.
You are wrong. I have Emmanuel Quickly right here as well.
Okay.
Here's the thing. He could be in another tier. He's actually produced a body of work that shows that this guy could score. He's averaged over 17 points per game numerous times. He's a good 3-point shooter. Also making a lot of money. I think the New York Knicks made the right move trading him to
Yeah.
avoid paying him, and they've become a better team since. So I think his scoring doesn't necessarily lead to winning. And now the price tag with him, it's 5 years, 162 million. It's over $30 million per year for a guy that I'm convinced can just score the ball. And we know it's important, but in the NBA, it's not everything. And I just don't know how efficient he'll ever be, or if he'll ever be more than just a guy who scores 15 to 18 points per game, but on a team that is just not that good.
That's exactly the same reason I had him there, because I just feel like Toronto overpaid for him.
Just it did.
And as soon as they traded for him, when they got him from New York, they gave up OG Anunoby basically to get him, and RJ Barrett in the same deal. They just paid him immediately, and I feel like the sample size was so small. And last year was not a disastrous year, but it was not a great year. He did not live up to his contract whatsoever, and I kind of feel like that might be the case. I don't know if it's one of the most untradeable contracts, but like it feels like it could be a very hard contract to trade, depending on what team wants to pay a guard that is probably more a six-man level player.
Yeah.
30 something million dollars when they're viewing him as a starter. So like I don't love it, but I just felt like he kind of fit that same tier to me as Carrington and Mitchell, because I don't think he's that much better as an overall player. I think he is much more talented offensively than both of them. But I think that, if we're projecting in 2 years, is Bub Carrington better than Emmanuel Quickly? I
That's
wouldn't be
possible.
surprised if he was.
That's
So,
possible.
Quickly was ranked 81 overall on 2K, Bub Carrington 78. So, three rankings higher in terms of overall rating, but I don't know. I think that there's guys that are either at the same level ranking wise or lower that I have above Quickly, because I think they're going to be better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that like if you were to put Emmanuel Quickly on a winning team, those numbers are gonna take a dip. They really
Yeah.
are. So I think anyone, and there's so many guys in this league that could be really good scorers on bad teams. Like
Mhm.
we've already brought up Cam Thomas. Like Cam Thomas on the Nets. I mean, there's times he's putting up 30 points per game. He can't even catch a contract from his own team. So I think that scoring isn't everything, but that's why Emmanuel Quickly is in that tier that you mentioned. Could be potentially a step above the tier of the rest of the guys, but definitely at the bottom of the next tier. So the next
Mhm.
player, maybe we have a different over here. I think this guy's heading towards a really big year with the ball in his hand a lot. That's the reigning sixth man of the year, Peyton Pritchard.
I
So
hate that we are in agreement on every single
dude,
one
this is
so
what
far.
happens when we've been doing it for this long. But
I'm
I
so
think that
mad.
we look at the game similar in terms of like Peyton Pritchard. He had a good year. He really did. You take Drew Holiday off of the Boston Celtics, you have no Jason Tatum this year, and I really feel like he's going to have some monster games.
Yeah.
Like this man can score. He's efficient. He's exciting to watch, and I think that he's going to have another career year. So Boston made a good move, paying him, getting ahead of it. I think that Peyton Pritchard fun to watch, and that's why I have him at the spot that I have him at.
Yeah, so this tier I have two players in this tier at 9 and 10. And I had a hard time debating between the
So
two of
did
them
I.
because they're different players.
Yeah.
So I put Pritchard at 10 as well because he's been a six man. He's played around great players, and I wonder what that elevated role will actually look like now that he's going to be asked to do more, because the projections, or I should say the depth chart on ESPN, kind of had Anthony Simons there at the 2 and Derek
For a
White at the
little
1
bit.
originally.
Yeah.
However, we have heard from reporters in Boston that Simons is coming off the bench and they want to start Pritchard. So based on the reporting of the depth chart, I'm going to go with what they said and put Peyton Pritchard in this conversation. Six man of the year, great last year, no doubt about it. And I think he could continue to get better with a bigger opportunity. However, you can't make the case that he's better than the nine players above him right now. Even if you're projecting, maybe one or two you could put ahead, but put him ahead of. I just don't necessarily agree, and so that reason for me is why at number 9, I've got a guy that might not actually be considered a point guard by a lot of fans, but based on the depth charts for the Chicago Bulls, I've got Josh Giddey at number 9. I don't know
Okay.
if you have Giddey at 9 or not, but this is where
Now,
I have Giddey. I have Giddey and Pritchard in the same ranking.
okay. I respect it. I don't. This is where our first difference over here. So, do you want me to talk on Giddy, or do you want me to talk on who I got?
Well, I mean, tell me who you got, because I can elaborate on Giddey a little bit more after you tell me.
I think I'm a little bit lower on this player than most. I don't want to judge him off of last year. The contract kind of scares me off. That's Jalen Suggs.
Okay, I
So,
have him higher.
okay. So Suggs, good player. Good player. Very overpaid right now. Over $30 million per year. And I believe is going to be the contract that now all of a sudden the Magic get down the line. They go, man, I just wish we didn't sign Jalen Suggs. It's such a big deal. All defensive second team 2 seasons ago. Dog defensively. Definitely. He is. I worry about his offensive game. He's never been efficient. He's not your traditional point guard in terms of like he's not going to have a high number of assists or anything. He's a very good defensive point guard in this league. I think that all of a sudden he could prove me wrong because he is coming off, like I said, an injury-riddled year that is hard to really judge him off of. If Jalen Suggs figures it out and gets it going, the Orlando Magic are going to take a leap. But if he is just another real good defensive guard, it's going to be tough for Orlando. I think they need a little bit more out of him.
Yeah, I will come back to Suggs. I will talk about Giddey here quickly. The reason I have him at 9 is because this guy still hasn't signed a new contract, and I do think that's a little bit worrisome. I don't know what the Bulls are going to end up doing with Giddey. I think he's a very talented player. I think that he, thrived in that new role once they got rid of Zach LaVine and they kind of allowed Giddey to kind of be like the focal point of their offense with Kobe White. Some might say, why isn't Kobe White the point guard? Most depth charts had Giddey at the 1 and Kobe White at the 2. They're probably interchangeable. It doesn't really matter to me, but I thought it'd be a good place to put Giddey at to talk about him, especially with the contract. I like Giddey as a player a lot. Defensively, he's an eyesore, was unplayable for OKC at times, and they traded him for Alex Caruso, and they won a championship. So to me, I think he's a good player. I think he was, drafted in the right range for him. A lot of people really liked him. I know the Warriors are really high on Giddey as well. And there's even been some rumblings that the Warriors might want to do a sign and trade to get Josh Giddey out to Golden State. And there's been some maybe talks of like a double sign and trade with Kuminga and Giddey. So there's so much unknown, I guess you could say, with Giddey in terms of like it just being a small sample size of 1 year with Chicago under Billy Donovan. I like his play a lot as an offensive player. Great feel for the game. Shots improved. He's a good player. I like him in that tier with Pritchard because I feel like they're kind of similar in different ways. But like in terms of like where I could see them projecting, like are they both better off maybe as 6 men? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I see Giddey. I don't know if I see Giddey as like this elite level starter that's going to like drastically change a team. I think he could be a nice complementary piece, but that's about the extent of it. So that's how I feel on Giddey. And then if I'm going to move forward now to my next tier, I have 2 players in this tier. That's where I have Jalen Suggs at 8. So I don't know. Who do you have at 8?
So I'll just touch on Giddey because that's where I had him. So
Okay.
I had Giddey next. Like I think he's got the body of work to show that he's a very talented player in this league. Like if he's a box score stuffer is how I would put it. Like this guy could get you the triple doubles. He can score, he can rebound, he can assist. For the last from February on, he averaged basically about 20 points per game. 10 boards, 8 assists on 49% shooting for Chicago. It was part of their turnaround. Obviously, a couple years ago, it looked like him and Shea were going to be like those guys in OKC. But to the point that you made, they were a better team by trading him for Alex Caruso. No doubt about it. I think that if they had Josh Giddey over Caruso, I don't think that they beat us because Caruso had some big games offensively, and we obviously know what he brings defensively. So for Giddey, I think that like whenever that contract situation solidify, like he's gonna have some big years, in the NBA, stat sheet stuffer, all of that. But like you said, defensively, it'll never be there. And I think that that's why sometimes it kind of tips the scale of like scoring isn't everything, like I mentioned earlier. And defensively, I don't think it'll ever be there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's why I was like, I'm kind of lower on him than Suggs just because of the defense. And when it comes to Jalen Suggs, so I have a number 8. The reason I had him at 8 below the top 7 of who I have is because I'm curious what his role is going to be next year with Desmond Bane in the fold. I think that it might make the team better, but it could reduce what he does as a
I
player.
think so.
It could almost maybe put him in the Nembhard role with Haliburton on the floor. You know what I mean? And he's also had injury problems. And that to me is a bit of a concern. You're getting paid a lot of money. You can't stay healthy. I liked him a lot when he was at Gonzaga. I mean, he obviously played with Nembhard too. So I think that he's a very, very talented player. I just wonder like how much is he going to be able to showcase that talent if he can't, number one, stay healthy, and then number two, he's essentially the fourth option with Orlando. And depending on how involved they get Wendell Carter Jr. or whoever, I'm sure there's going to be times where he's the fifth, the fifth
I
option.
think so.
So I think that when it comes to Suggs, like, yes, I think he individually is probably in the same tier as who I have at 7. I think you can make the case that he could be 7th versus who I have, but Suggs overall is ranked in 82. Giddey overall is ranked in 82, and I felt like they're very close. But once again, I had Suggs above Giddey. You had Giddey above Suggs, but in my tier ranking, I had Suggs a tier above Josh Giddey because I think if you put Suggs with Chicago and Giddey with Orlando, I don't know if I like that for Orlando. I think I like it more for Chicago.
I don't know. That's hard. It's hard to determine because I feel like Orlando really needs like a point guard to like get it going. That's why I
I
was
think
excited.
Bane can be that.
Maybe. I don't know. I was
He
excited when
didn't
they
really get an
signed.
opportunity to be a point guard because of John Morant.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
was
they had
excited
Scottie
when they signed
Pippen
Tyus
Jr.
Jones. I just felt like Tyus Jones is a great, passer that could get it going. I think Josh Giddey would really be able to help that Magic offense a lot. But
Yeah,
at the same point to your argument before of like if you said the next few years who's going to really rise, I would say Josh Giddey instead of Suggs. I think that
maybe.
Suggs' role is just going to come down and down. I think that like, he's never. I just don't see him as this guy who can give you like 15 points per game, like 7 assists or 8 assists or anything like that, where like Giddey could do that in his sleep. There's more to the game than just stats, but I feel like Giddey's going to have some really, really big games. Even hit like a half court game winner last year. That was huge. Like I don't see Suggs doing a lot of that moving forward, but I could be wrong, and I'm not the biggest Suggs guy, so maybe I'm not the right guy to have him ranked, but we don't have him ranked that far off. So
No, 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 no.
I think we're in the same category, and so is 2K. 2K have these guys, like you said, right next to each other. But I think that moves to next on the list, and we might be back on the same page here. This is where I have Andrew Nembhard.
Yeah, I had him at 7.
Yes, I have him at 7.
And
if
I
you,
almost felt like it was too high.
I went through that because here's the thing. I went through this heart versus brain, whatever, and I went, Josh Giddey's proven more, I think, in the NBA of like his numbers. He's got bigger numbers and stuff like that. Like, but I'm projecting that Nembhard gets to that type of level of like a bigger statistical season offensively. If you
Yeah.
look around the league and you had not been watching Andrew Nembhard, people would say you're out of your mind. Suggs made an all-defensive team, and Giddey's been a good player. How do you have Nembhard above him? Because I think that, and I'm sure you and every other Pacer fan would think the same, Nembhard's sacrificed. He plays next to Tyrese Haliburton. How are you going to be a better point guard when you're playing next to arguably the best point guard in the conference? So, and then also look at the other guys in the starting lineup. I mean, you got Pascal Siakam before it was Turner, before it was, whatever, Neesmith or Mathurin, whoever you want to throw in there. It's really good players. He sacrificed. I think less next year is going to be less sacrificing and more of getting his. The defense has been there. It'll be there. It could continue to get better in the future. The offense will get better next year. I just there's no way that I don't see him taking a leap offensively. I just see it.
Yeah, what's really interesting is I was just listening to the Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecini today as I was mowing the grass. And one of the things they brought up about Nembhard, they had him as their top 24 defender in the league out of like 25, which, it's there's a lot of good defenders in the league at different positions. So like I didn't listen to the whole list because it was like 3 parts. And so I just listened to the first part where they talked about Nembhard. But one thing that Sam Vecini said is like when he was at Gonzaga, nobody really thought of him as like this elite level defender because he did so much offensively. And like he was like the point guard of that team, and Jalen Suggs was the 2. And so a lot of it was like allowing him to kind of be like the focal point of the offense. And like they didn't have him guarding the other team's best player. And he's kind of evolved into that defensive stud for the Pacers. And he's really bought into it. But I also go back to the 2024 NBA champion Boston Celtics. It wasn't just their coach. It was multiple players that said the toughest player they faced throughout that entire playoff run was Andrew Nembhard in games 3 and games 4. And I know it's a very small sample size. It's just 2 games in front of your home crowd, but that's a lot of pressure. Tyrese goes down. You become the focal point of the offense, and that guy was locked in. And I'm not saying that he's going to have that high efficiency throughout an 82-game regular season, but I do believe that he can find a balance of where he was at last year as like the worst 3-point shooter from the starting two guard position next to Kelly Oubre, and then of course what he did in the final or what he did in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Defensively, he's gotten so much better. I think offensively, he's learned so much too as a player, like what works. And there was a video, like a hype video, like a mixtape on Instagram and or Twitter, talking about the handles that he has, and they showed all these different times where he just like puts these like guys in in the blender with what he can do. And I think people are gonna get a nice awakening to Andrew Nembhard. I've been calling for the most improved player of the year for him because I think that's what he has the capability of doing. But I'm obviously a big Nembhard guy. I just feel like as this next season goes, he's going to be so on the radar with everybody. Like they're going to love what they see from him as he leads the Pacers to the playoffs, as I predicted him being a 6th seed. And then when Haliburton comes back, he's going to have a bigger role. And I think he's going to honestly be relied upon even more because they're going to have to ease Haliburton back into it with that Achilles tear. So I just have a lot of belief in Andrew Nembhard.
Yeah, no, I think that he will be. You don't want to say a household name because I think Indiana's not nationally televised enough, but I think that a lot of people will be more alert to Andrew Nembhard, and he deserves that type of praise. He's been awesome, but I think that like next year you're going to have the stats behind it. We've seen him in the past have double-digit assist games. We've seen him have, score over 20 points per game. At 20 points, numerous times. Last year, not that type of season for it. This year, he's going to have the ball in his hands, asked to do a lot more offensively. I think the stats will follow. So next, I would imagine this is moving into a different tier. I know you said you had a few different tiers for you.
Yeah, I have 2 tiers left, so I have 4 players actually in this one tier. Then I have another tier of just 2 players.
I got you on that. So here we go next. As I would say probably the lowest of that tier. I have LaMelo Ball. So LaMelo has all the talent in the world, offensively at least. I think this guy could average 30 points per game. We've seen him do it for a while, but we've never seen it influence winning. Never. The Hornets have remained at the bottom of the standings throughout his entire career. He's had some injuries, which it's the worst part of the game. You wish injuries upon nobody, but I just don't think this is face of the franchise material. I just feel like he's not mature enough to match his talent. And I think that for LaMelo, who like people have followed him since high school and all of this, he could hit some of the craziest shots in the world, but he's also going to take some of the worst shots in the world. And I think that LaMelo's defense is just so far behind his offense that it'll never catch up. And that's why, as talented as he is, that's why I got him coming in at number 6 here.
Okay, real quick, I just want to say that Jalen Suggs is an 82. Andrew Nembhard was an 81 on the 2K rankings. So Andrew Nembhard is actually ranked lower than Josh Giddey and Jalen Suggs. We both had Nembhard ahead of him. So
I think it's justified. I think those guys have produced a little bit more higher draft picks, like all of that stuff. I mean, Giddey and Suggs, those are top 10 picks.
Yeah,
I
think that's part of the reason. Like, it's more of like
it's worth something.
Picks. Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
I don't think it should matter because Mathurin was ranked so low.
I know Mathurin at 79. Is that what it was?
78, maybe. I don't remember. He was in the 70s.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, he'll wake up.
Anyway, I want to get back to LaMelo because that's who I also had at 6, which is just I knew we would do this when it came down to these point guards.
There was going to be a little bit more of a shakeup. I felt like
I don't feel like it's that hard to rank the point guards based on the 2K rankings being very similar to how I actually feel. And when I sent you this, I was like, I wonder if this is going to like change your mind, because it definitely changed my mind a little bit in terms of not like how I would rank them, but like I was kind of surprised to see where some of these guys were at, because LaMelo's an 87 and he is actually ranked 4th amongst starting point guards in this year's upcoming season, not including Haliburton. He is top 4 based on what they say, and I have him at 6. So a lot of it for me is this guy can't stay healthy. I mean, how many times do we see this guy sitting on the Hornets bench and not playing in games? And how many times do we see the Hornets not really trying to contend for a playing game? Like, there was like a hot minute where they were like back-to-back playing darlings, and then they like either lose their first game by 40 points to the Pacers, or like they win that game and then win the first game and then get smoked in the second game. They are just a very like meh franchise, and I know they're trying to get things figured out, and I believe that they can figure it out. I think their roster is actually better than it was last year, for sure.
It is, but like the bar's just been set so low for this.
It is. I don't like him as a player. Here's what I'll say. I think if he was in a different environment, he could have a much better career, and possibly if he was in the right environment and the right team, he could be in this top 3 list of point
Maybe
guards. I
has the
think he's that
talent.
talented. I
Has
think he's that talented.
the talent. Always has had the talent. I'm with you in there. Like Charlotte was not the place to go. Not the place. They never had talent around him, and they just gave him the keys. And all of a sudden, it's like, who's been his vets? Who's pushed him?
Yeah.
Like it's like you don't. I mean, if like
But
Miles
like,
Bridges is your guy, like yeah, you're not in the right environment. So I feel like yeah, going to Charlotte was definitely something that didn't do him any favors.
well, and it's like when you go to a losing culture, it like to me he doesn't seem like a winner. That's just how I feel. I feel like he's
Yeah.
actually content in Charlotte. Like it
I
doesn't seem
think
like
so.
he
He's
cares.
paid. He's paid, and he got stats.
Yeah.
That's
He
he's
doesn't have to play but
probably.
half the year.
I mean, yeah, he's someone to me has a like. I would imagine when they talk about the people that like you lose by 30 and they like rush and check their stats on like Instagram or Twitter. And I
Yeah.
think it's him. I think he's the type of guy that runs to social media and they're like, all right, yeah, but I dropped 40. What are they saying about me? And
Mhm.
it's like, dude, you just lost by 30. So I just think that like he doesn't have that right type of like he's accepted this because he knows it's his team. He's paid. Life's not too bad. Quote, it's just a game. Like one of those type of guys.
Right, right.
Like, yeah, whatever. It's just a game.
Well, do you think there's a team that makes sense, not for him in terms of talent wise, but just in terms of getting his career, to another level than where it's already at? Is there like an actual franchise you think could revive him a little bit?
I mean, there's much better franchises, but it's like, does it make sense for that franchise? Because right
Yeah.
now he's kind of risky. Like, no, he doesn't like get in trouble, but I feel like it's like, do you want that in your locker room? Kind of just rubbing off on everybody. Like, I don't really know. And honestly, I feel like LeVar Ball has completely stepped back, like stepped
I
aside.
haven't heard much.
I know. I feel like he's not even a distraction anymore. I just think that like LaMelo is just too immature, and I think that's what happens when you're like become a star at such a young age. Such a young age. I just feel like he's just like I don't know. I mean, we don't hear that he's not coachable, but I just feel like not the type of guy that you want leading your franchise.
Yeah, this is like one of those Sacramento Kings trade for LaMelo Ball, nothing changes. It's just like the same old
Yeah.
same. But
Yep.
I do think had he gone to someone like Golden State, where you have a Steph Curry and an established Steve Kerr with a Draymond Green,
Totally.
that is the kind of accountability that he needs. I know that a lot of people would say, "Oh, Heat culture," or they would say the Spurs. Like it's like those are the two
Oh,
de
he's not cut
factos.
out for Miami. He's not cut out for Miami.
No, and if he goes to San Antonio, like I could see without Pop there, I don't like it as much.
No.
But I do think it would be interesting because you can make the case that he's a better overall fit than De'Aaron Fox because I'm not the biggest De'Aaron Fox kind of guy. And I just like his 3-point shooting and ball handling abilities. Like I think that would be nice to pair with a guy like Wemby, but I just don't know if they would want to take the risk because he's just such a like head case, not in a bad way,
Yeah.
just like he's
Exactly.
just like an unknown. It's just like what are we
A
getting from
wild
this
card.
guy?
It's just yeah. It's like it's one of
Milwaukee would make a lot of sense fit wise if he can
yeah.
find a way to get to Milwaukee because him and Giannis together could be very
uh,
fun.
the idea of him with so many other players throwing lobs and hitting deep threes and crossing people up and then dishing it, like there's so much of that. But like, yeah, there's just so many other teams that might just be like, I don't know. It would cost a lot to give up for him, and I just don't necessarily know if that makes our team a lot better. So that's why we have him here, despite having all the talent in the world.
Right. So that's why we both have him at 6, and he is ranked 87 overall. At number 5, who do you have next?
I got Darius Garland.
Same here, of course.
Okay. Look, he's
I was
good.
surprised by you to not have somebody else here at 5 based on how you've talked about them in previous
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah. Well, hey, he might not be too far. So look, Garland's good, but I feel like everyone's waiting for him to be great. Like, this is a guy who barely even played in college and was still drafted very high just off of his potential. Like, he's been good and he's had talent around him, but like everyone's kind of waiting for him to like take that next step. And if Cleveland wants to take the next step and go on like a run to like conference finals, NBA finals, I feel like Darius Garland's got to be better. I know he was banged up against the Pacers, but that man got pretty much zipped up in a body bag by Nembhard and them boys. Like he really like it was Garland was not a factor, and I know it was like a toe injury or something of the sort, and it was good that he made it out there. But
Turf
like,
toe.
yeah, exactly, and it's rough. But like, if Cleveland's gonna be great, Garland needs to be great. We already know he's an all-star, but like to me, he's like one of the probably like weaker all-stars, I would say, in the East.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they're so good, right? Like they've got a really good starting five in Cleveland, and he's definitely like second, third fiddle to Evan Mobley and um, Donovan Mitchell. So he's definitely like the third best player on their team, and they really needed him to kind of alleviate some of that ball handling duties
They did.
against the Pacers defense. And he never looked right. Like he looked like he was rough out there, and
Yeah.
he even said it like he probably shouldn't have played or wouldn't have played if he
Probably.
would have been okay. And Ty Jerome being such a bust for them in terms of
Oof,
like what he did against
so
the
bad.
Pacers, I feel like that really set the bar for like, oh God, we got to get him back on the court ASAP or we're going to lose this. And I think there was just a lot of pressure from Cleveland's, fan base, their ownership. Like, hey, we're the number one seed. We just won all these games. Like, we got to figure this out, And there was a lot of Cleveland fans calling into the radio station had a lot of negative things to say about Darius Garland, about how
Yep.
weak he is, and like this injury is a fluke, and he's just being soft and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't think he is. Like he looks very, very, very uncomfortable. Like that was a gutsy showing from him to get out there and play. But I mean, Indiana did a great job of attacking him relentlessly, and he got like 4 or 5 fouls in his first game back, like early on. Like I mean, it was like the first half he got 4 fouls. Like he just could not keep up, and I don't want to judge him based on that playoff run.
Yeah,
And I
agreed.
think that's where like a lot of Pacer fans listening were like, yeah, he wasn't that good in the playoffs. He's not that good. No, he's a very talented player
Yes.
when he's fully healthy. And I think that maybe we're underselling him a little bit in terms of like a weak all-star, whatever. It was a one-time thing, and maybe that's a fair case, but very talented player. I think he's a top 5 point guard in the Eastern Conference this season. And if he can stay healthy, you're gonna see why we have him this high. Because I think if the Cavs want to make it to the NBA finals, we've already seen what Donovan
He's got
Mitchell
to be
can
the guy.
do. He's got to be much much better and be that solid number 3 on a night to night basis.
Completely agree. I also like. I know you're talking about people calling on the radio. Like I do think that if Cleveland doesn't figure it out, I think Garland's the one who's
He's
traded.
the one to go. Him and
Yeah.
Allen.
Exactly. I think for Allen, it's like, what could you get? He's still a very good player, all that. Like Garland, you could probably get a little bit more back in a trade. All-star point guard, they're hard to come by. But yeah, I do think that he would be the odd man out.
Yeah,
So next on the list, number 4, a guy that you're higher on than me. I've never been this type of guy, but I got Trae Young here.
that's where I have
So
him.
okay, never been a Trae Young guy. I've made that known, but like from a points generated, scoring, assists, fewer or better. He did it in college. He led the nation in scoring and assists as a freshman. He can lead the NBA in assists any given year. He can score a lot, but until he becomes a better defender and until he protects the rock better, it's really just it's holding him back. And outside of that Eastern Conference Finals run, which we've talked about before, is like probably the most flukish run in a while of any team, and everything that we didn't want to be compared to. Trae Young just has not been able to like get out of that like play-in type of territory. And while he averaged 11.6 assists per game last year, great. He's averaging over 4 turnovers per game for his career. He's done
Mm.
it every year, but his rookie year. So when this guy's averaging 11.6 assists per game, which is incredible, his assist to turnover ratio is just 2.5 due to how many turnovers he has. So I think that if he can get more efficient, he can protect the rock. I don't even think he'll ever be a decent defender, but if he can at least do those things, he could be an upper echelon point guard in this league. But right now, like he's definitely better than LaMelo Ball, but in a similar category of like if this is your guy, you're kind of handcuffed a little bit as to how great you could really be unless you bring in someone even better.
He is such a defensive liability,
So
but
bad.
I think with the way they have structured their roster this year for the Hawks, it is probably the best team that he's been a part of
Could be.
in terms of how they build around him to defend, because they've added a lot of plus defenders to this roster to try to mask some of the holes that he brings defensively. Now, this guy is an offensive juggernaut. There's no doubt about it. The guy can pull up from anywhere once he crosses the half court line, and you have to be worried because you're in Trey zone, and that he can hit that. He's in Trey range, so I like him a lot. I think he's underrated. I think he's underappreciated. Definitely respect him more being a villain in New York because of their first round upset against the Knicks back when they ended up making it to the Eastern Conference Finals and losing to the Bucks. Like they beat that Knicks team. They ended up taking advantage of a 76ers team that was imploding with Ben Simmons. And then they got I think it was a 6-game series actually against Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals, if I'm not mistaken, but
Could
it
have
never really felt close.
been.
So,
Never did.
I mean, I just think Trey has got like probably one of the toughest shots to guard,
Hmm.
and he has been at the top of the league, like you mentioned in passing. So it's like you can't discredit what he does as a player. I think he's very, very talented, but I don't know. I feel like we've already seen peak Trey. I don't think he's going to get much better
I
than
think we
this.
have. I
And so
think
if
we
you're
have.
talking about projecting, I don't think he's going to get much better. But I would love to see him grow as a team defender. That's the only way I can see him getting better individually is if he can actually do a little bit of what Tyrese did last year and be more of a team defender while getting targeted so often.
Yeah, it's like I'm not trying to be like such a homer, but like for the criticism that Tyrese gets, he's a way better defender than Trey Young. Like way
Yeah, well, he's a
better. I
lot
feel like
bigger too.
yeah, exactly. He's a lot bigger, but like they've tried to hide Trey for a while now. Like, they brought in DeJounte Murray, you brought in Dyson Daniels. Like these are like elite on ball defenders. And we'll see. I do agree with you. This is a good Hawks team on paper at least. But if it doesn't work out, and if this Hawks team is just like a flop, you really have to look at being like, okay, what do we do now?
Well,
Like
there's a reason why he hasn't signed that extension.
I know. I
They
do
want to
think that
see, and he wants to see probably.
yes, I definitely agree with that. And like they got the number one pick in like the worst year to ever get the number one pick. Like I just really feel like it's like any other year you bring in, a stud. And
They should have drafted Castle.
yeah, it was Stefan Castle?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
That's who I really liked in the draft. I didn't
Yeah,
really
I
love the
mean,
draft, but I was a big fan of him.
feel better about him than Ricochet. So all right, next on the list. And for everyone's understanding, Trey Young is ranked a 90
Yeah.
in
Third overall, based
so
on
third overall. So clearly, we are not just going off of the rankings, and that's why at number 3,
yeah,
I got Tyrese Maxey.
same. I cannot believe we did this. This is so funny to me. I
Hey,
like Maxey so much, and I
I
feel like
do.
he's under the radar. What is this?
I
86?
I agree.
Worse than Garland and
86.
LaMelo?
I could slip him in 88. I think you could. 87, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, here's what I'm thinking. So I think that we are on the cusp of Tyrese Maxey being like a household name, like arguably an all NBA type name. Like I think he could be an all NBA third team type of player this year when you're talking about like no Tatum, no Halliburton, like obviously, Dame's out. Like he could be in the running for that. And I think it all depends on how bad are the Sixers going to be. If the Sixers are a good team and he's going to be a big part of that, obviously, he could be in the running for that. Back-to-back years, averaging 26 points per game. He's way more efficient than Trey. I feel like Tyrese Maxey is like a really good player that is like on the come up year after year, but still isn't getting maybe that type of respect or the flowers that he deserves.
Yeah, I think that as long as the 76ers continue to be a question mark, he's going to be lumped into that group. But he was so good in that first round matchup against the Knicks 2 years ago.
Yep.
He ended up having that big game winner in the Garden, forcing a game 6. I know they ended up losing that game 6, but he's just that tough of a dude. And I know Trey Young can do all that stuff too, but I just think that Maxey to me has a higher upside. I think he can keep getting better. The Sixers team, though, they just don't feel like they make sense right now because there's too many question marks and it's too many health concerns. And I know that he's had a handful of injuries in his career as well. But when he's healthy, like this is a super, super talented dude. And he has given the Pacers problems every single time they've played him. But he gives everybody problems. This guy's a bucket getter. And I think that he can play off of Joel Embiid, but he can also play by himself. I don't think his numbers dropped that much. I could be wrong, but whenever I watched him play, like without Embiid, like this dude still put up crazy numbers and probably even more. Like I think he dropped 40 something against the Pacers. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
it was the game where Halliburton hit that crazy 3 to tie it to go to overtime. The Pacers ended up losing that game still early on in the season last year. But Maxey was unbelievable, and they had no answers for him. So I just love the way that Tyrese Maxey is like approaches the scoring game, and I love the way that he plays the game. Plays with so much passion. I it's really a toss up for me between him and Trey. Like you could really make the debate that Trey's better. 2K says he is. 2K says LaMelo and Garland are better than Maxey. I won't hear LaMelo. I'll hear the Garland argument. I would listen. I would understand if a Cavs fan was like, "There's no way," But I just believe in Maxey so much, and it's not just because he's with the 76ers. I just think he's that talented. So I agree with everything you said. That's why I have him at 3, but I would be shocked if our 1 and 2 are the same.
I don't know. I don't know. So number 2 on my list, I got Cade Cunningham.
Yeah,
Now,
it's not the same.
yeah, okay. And that's fine because I know we talked about this a little bit recently. I just think for Cade, I got to see a little bit more. Last year, he was
Fair.
great. He really was. But I feel like it's like, oh, hold on, young fella. I got to see just a little bit more from you. And I think you can make an argument that Cade finishes this year being known as the best point guard in the East.
Yeah.
But I think for right now, it is not solidified.
But you said we're projecting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like I think that like it's at the point where it's like Brunson's sample size is bigger. And I think that right now, Cade Cunningham, like coming off of a great year for Detroit, he's been hurt. He's battled injuries. Detroit's been at the bottom of the standings many times. If they regress, I think people are going to say, hey, Cade's showed that he could be an all-star year in, year out, but there's still some questions. And I think right now some of those questions are, we've talked about this, his turnovers per game are out of this world. Like, I don't think enough people are paying attention to this. And let me just pull this up. This is what happens with a young player on a bad team. So 9.1 assists per game, but 4.4 turnovers per game. That means it's 2.1 assists per turnover. That's not good. It's just not good in terms of like when you're an all-star player. So he could score with the best of them, really good. I think that like he's only getting better. This guy's 23 years old. He'll be 24, later this month. But that's why I have him at number 2, which is a really good spot in the Eastern Conference, but I couldn't put him at number 1 yet.
Yeah, so I will make the case for why I have Jalen Brunson 2 and Cade 1. Jalen Brunson could lead the Knicks to the NBA Finals this year.
Good.
And that would definitely be like, well, you just made the same case for Tyrese above him, so why is that the case? Okay. I'm also going to say, I just think if you're looking at overall player and you're projecting, I think you can make the case by the end of the season that the number 1 player in the Eastern Conference is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and number 2 is Cade Cunningham.
It's possible.
He,
Definitely
to me, is a much better defender than Jalen Brunson. He's a big point guard who's like 6'7", so he can guard multiple positions. I'm not saying he's elite in that level, but the turnovers to me are actually a good sign because that means that they're giving him the reps that he needs to get the experience that he needs. If he continues to do it as this team gets better, then sure, that's a little bit of a cause for concern. But I also don't think this roster in Detroit got that much better. I think they made a lot of lateral moves and maybe even got worse based on their offseason. I was listening to the Pistons podcast trying to make sure I wasn't just being a bad outside viewer of this team and thinking, I'm just not in love with these moves. Now, if they can get Malik Beasley back, I feel better about that. But when you lose Schroeder and Beasley and you replace that with Karis LeVert, who I'm not the biggest fan of, and Duncan Robinson, who I'm not the biggest fan of, I don't love it. And they lost Simone Fontecchio. They get Jaden Ivey back. And I think if Jaden Ivey can come back healthy and really alleviate some of that guard handling duty for Cade, it could make Cade a better player. But I just think Cade is a 3-level scorer. We saw that at times in the playoffs last year. Like, this guy is like putting up buckets, and he's that good of a player. So that to me is why I think if you're projecting, I think that Cade Cunningham is the best point guard in the Eastern Conference, and I think Jalen Brunson's too. Because Jalen Brunson, to me, I'm a little bit curious to see how he thrives in Mike Brown's offense compared to Thibodeau's offense. Are they going to do things a little bit different? Is it going to be getting the ball to Cap more? Is it going to be getting other guys involved more? Will he regress in that role? Whenever there's a coaching change, it's always questionable to me. And I know Mike Brown's a great coach, so I'm not thinking that, it's going to be that drastic of a drop-off. But you're talking about Cade ranked 92 on 2K and Brunson ranking 93. It's really only one overall difference. And I guarantee most people would agree with you, Facci, that they would put Brunson above Cade. But I think right now, if I'm projecting and looking at what I like about Cade versus what I like about Brunson, I think Brunson is number 2, and I think Cade's number 1.
And that's fine. I think there could be strong arguments being made both ways because when you throw the term projection out, Cade's a number 1 overall pick. You're supposed to be elite, and he's on his way to being a very, very special player. Brunson, opposite direction, 2nd-round pick, a guy that was very slept on, smaller. So you're talking about one's a big point guard, one's a small point guard. But I think that Brunson right now has just like, to me, like that it factor, that clutchness. I know he was the clutch player of the year award winner last year, whatever that's even worth anymore, because it should have been Tyrese basically when it's all said and done of bigger moments. But Brunson is clutch. He can score. He is very efficient. He's a tough guard out there for any opposing defense. But I think, yeah, projection long term, I think Cade's going to have a great, great career, probably a better one. For right now, I'm going off of hey, for Brunson, I'm not wondering if he can do it again. I'm already convinced he will do it. So, I think that the Knicks are going to be that team that the stage is set for them to go on like a real run, like a conference finals, NBA finals type of run. For the Pistons, I think that although they're in our division, you don't want to necessarily see them go on that type of run, but like, you'd still be like, all right, I respect what you're doing over here. It reminds us of like the Pacers a little bit of like, Pacers light, young group trying to get it going. But yeah, I stick by, I have Brunson number 1, Cade number 2. I could see an argument going either way. I think for at least one more year, I think it's probably Brunson, but it would not surprise me if Cade has a great year, finishes as like the top point guard in the Eastern Conference. It is definitely in the running.
All right, Facci. So as we wrap this up, let's go ahead and quickly go through our list. I will go through mine. At number 1, I got Cade Cunningham. 2, Jalen Brunson. 3, Tyrese Maxey. 4, Trae Young. 5, Darius Garland. 6, LaMelo Ball. 7, Andrew Nembhard. 8, Jalen Suggs. 9, Josh Giddey. 10, Peyton Pritchard. 11, Emmanuel Quickley. 12, Bub Carrington. 13, Davion Mitchell. 14, Kevin Porter Jr. And 15, Tyson Etienne. Facci, go ahead and read your
All right, number 1, I got Jalen Brunson. Number 2, Cade Cunningham. Number 3, Tyrese Maxey. Number 4, Trae Young. Number 5, Darius Garland. Number 6, LaMelo Ball. Number 7, Andrew Nembhard. Number 8, Josh Giddey. Number 9, Jalen Suggs. Number 10, Peyton Pritchard. Number 11, Emmanuel Quickley. Number 12, Bub Carrington. Number 13, Davion Mitchell. Number 14, KPJ. Number 15, Tyson Etienne.
All right, everybody. So that is the point guards. Facci and I will be back tomorrow, and we're going to keep going with our 2K rankings compared to what we have rank-wise. But instead of just doing shooting guards, we're actually going to combine wings that are starting. So we're talking Aaron Nesmith and Benedict Mathurin. Where does that duo compare to the other duos that are starting in the Eastern Conference? And I will say, Facci, there are quite a few enticing duos out there at the 2-3 spot in the Eastern Conference. So I'll be curious to see where we actually have all of these players ranked. But I haven't gone through the 2K rankings yet and sent those over to you. But I'm interested to see what we have here.
Probably going to have some more differences. I just think that anytime you're talking...
I hope so. Good grief.
Anytime you're talking duos, things get complicated. So we will see how that list shakes out. Not too many differences on our list today, but I do think that will change in the near future. But please, guys, drop a comment. Let us know, if we think that we were too low on a player or too high. I think that there's maybe some people are bigger Josh Giddey or Jalen Suggs fans, and they should be higher on the list. Maybe we, ranked Andrew Nembhard too high. I don't know if anyone could have had him any higher. I just think that the 6 point guards above him are just far more established, sort of face of the franchise-esque type of players. But I do think that Andrew Nembhard's poised for a really big year, and I'm really excited to kind of put him on the map this year as like, hey, that's a guy that you got to put some respect on his name, not just for his defensive capabilities, but for his offensive capabilities as well.
Yeah, and I would say probably a lot of non-Pacer fans would say we're too high on Nembhard. They would probably have Giddey and Suggs ahead of him, maybe even Quickly, based on how some people view Nembhard. But I think that we're very close to this Pacers team, and we know how good he actually is. But also, I would not disagree that I am showing a little bias here by having him at 7. So trying to be fair, trying to be honest, but I can make the case for why I'd put him there, and I don't have a problem arguing that. So that's why I felt good enough to put him there, but I couldn't put him any higher because you could have convinced me to put him ahead of LaMelo Ball. You could have. You thought about it, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I just thought to myself, like, would Nembhard lock LaMelo Ball up? Absolutely. But I just knew that it was like, all right, you know what? LaMelo is someone who's averaged like 25 points per game numerous times. I got to put a little bit of respect on his name, even if the wins have never been there.
All right, Facci. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And tomorrow I'm going to ask you about something you did for your daughter over the weekend.
All right.
That you posted to your Instagram story. So that'll be our teaser especially for those who can't access Facci's Instagram because he is private and doesn't allow everybody to follow him. So we will talk about that here on the podcast. But until then, Pacer Nation, if you're looking forward to hearing our rankings for the shooting guard small forward duo, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.
Setting the pace, going to the top. Setting the pace, going to the top. This is your #1 podcast. Sweeping every team. We gon' need a mop.